You're really starting to cultivate a sense of identity as an academic, and you're developing this large program of research. With that being said, I believe it is most relevant and useful to provide a strong grasp of critical theories and methods to PhD students to really ensure that these skills are successfully carried over into one's research and furthermore into the academy. So now thinking broader, kind of these mainstream streams of information or knowledge. While PhD students might be a critical entry point, PhD students are also typically deemed lower status or early career within the academy. I call this the academic food chain, if you will. And that means it's essential to address the specific challenges PhD students might face when integrating intersectionality. And while it may be obvious, it's worth noting that these challenges are also likely to differ at different stages of one's career. So again, I'll be speaking directly to the PhD experience, but I'm sure for audience members who are at maybe a postdoc or faculty role, these challenges might differ. So I made sure to refine our earlier title, if you noticed, from current challenges broadly to current challenges for PhD students. The question is perhaps rhetorical, but it might be valuable for you to consider on your own what challenges you might consider relevant to PhD students. You might even consider adding them to the Q&A later. So I'll stop here and pause for a moment while you think about the challenges unique to PhD students, ones that are critical for us to address. Hopefully you've thought of one or two, and perhaps I'll continue on. While you consider those, allow me to pose maybe a few of my own, whether this is based on personal experiences or just ones that I've simply were able to generate. So I believe at the individual level, some programs might not have adequate training or faculty that are really familiar with intersectionality, let alone how to incorporate it. I consider a lack of training or understanding a large problem and one with many roots. So for instance, inadequate training might be the result of an intentional silencing or simply a lack of interest among faculty. PhD students who possess significant racial or class privilege might be ignorant to oppressive power systems and satisfied by their current curriculum or training. While PhD students experiencing discrimination within their program or society at large may feel even less equipped or supported to really learn about or engage with intersectionality. So there might be a demand, but it's not being met. Alternatively, a student might be excited or willing to learn about it, but a lack of training or maybe statistical knowledge might leave them feeling insecure about really navigating its integration. I believe these are all reasonable possibilities, and perhaps you can think of more yourself. I'm adding another qualifier before I proceed. I want to note that I'm speaking from the perspective of someone who uses quantitative methodologies. And methodologically, the integration of an intersectional perspective into tangible quantitative research presents another set of unique challenges. In fact, that is frequently one of the largest concerns I hear among my peers. How would you quantify intersectionality? How would I analyze data with an intersectional lens? Like, what are the concrete research practices that I can use when I'm uploading a survey or experiment, for instance? Other common critiques or fears related to quantitative research specifically include otherizing participants, right? So maybe you combine marginalized groups as comparisons to a majority baseline, or you fear categorizing larger groups as monoliths. So you're losing that granularity and nuance that is so important. However, I would argue that these tactics are incompatible with intersectionality, right? So these tactics would only recreate rather than challenge existing systems of oppression or power, and again, are therefore incompatible with intersectionality. So there must be a better way. And if we have some time at the end, there are already existing some resources on how to integrate an intersectional perspective as you both think about, participant recruitment, but also actually analyzing your data, which I can talk a little bit more about later on. Speaking of power, I believe PhD students not only receive little education on critical theories or methods, but the study of critical theories and methods itself might be riskier for PhD students who are deemed lower status or constrained to the parameters of their institution, their career stage, etc. The application of intersectionality frequently challenges conventional academic norms and has the potential to adversely affect one's career or sense of belonging within the academy. Institutions might also be wary of incorporating curricula such as intersectionality because it directly challenges the status quo. Now, several factors contribute to this resistance, including scholarly competition, but also epistemic exclusion. So Isis Settles, I mentioned earlier, writes a lot about this, for instance. And so scholarship that engages with intersectionality may appear radical or even undesirable. And learning a new skill or methodology early in one's career can be costly, especially one that is unpopular or uncommon. Accompanied by conflicting incentives that limit PhD students' learning and engagement, such as publishing frequently, it's unsurprising that the integration of intersectionality within psychological science or the adoption of critical theories and methods among PhD students has remained sluggish.